Good morning, everyone. Respected DG sir, respected faculty members, and all of you students. I'm really delighted to be here today, and I can assure you that this is going to be a very interactive session. So I would highly encourage you to go and participate a lot and ask lots of questions. Though I have a deck, or what we call a presentation, but that is largely to show you some very interesting facets of what's really happening in this, when Dr. Nayak spoke to me, he said that, look, it indeed is a very challenging environment, a very fast-changing, dynamic, paced world, and therefore, what is it that we can do to share some insights that probably we are seeing from a vantage point as Google and tech players in the world. So, I will use both English and Hindi. Feel free to ask your question in any language that you want to, and please pass a mic if anybody wants to ask a question. But before I begin, I think a very warm welcome to all of you. And I can tell you that, interestingly, I began my career in 2000, in the year 2000. So I'm assuming most of you were perhaps not even born in 2000, right? You were born later than 2000. And one thing which is notable is that I am from a generation which basically has been at the cusp of how the world changed. What I mean by that is, if you really think about human mankind and the kind of inventions that human mankind has done, बहुत सारी चीजें invent की हैं, right? The human brain is like, I think it's the most complex, most awesome thing that this nature has given us. This quest for curiosity, this quest for inventing new things. And the most recent example of that is what India achieved day before yesterday by landing Chandrayaan-3 on the moon. So a huge round of applause for that. I think we should be really proud of what we have done. We are the 4th country in the world to do that. And an incredible 76 years of independence. So coming back, if you really think about, in my view, when I think about the existence of mankind, right? And I think about so many developments, so many inventions, discoveries have happened. There are 3 things that I personally believe are the most, they actually made a massive difference to this world, those inventions. To me, that first invention actually is the invention of electricity. If you really think about it, अगर electricity नहीं होती इस दुनिया में, तो just imagine how the world would be. We would probably be in the dark ages when 5,000, 6,000 years back civilization began, right? It was a big shift that Edison and others made to our lives. I think the second biggest invention was the airplane, right? The airplane changed how human beings could travel around the world. It took several days and months to go from place A to place B, even within the country. And airplane made that shift happen. So let me ask you this question. What do you think is the third biggest invention that human mankind has driven? Internet. Absolutely. Just imagine your life without the internet and what internet has actually done to this world. It has actually made the world flat in as many terms. Now, as I said, you are born in an era where you were born with a smartphone in your hand. You are used to very high-speed internet. Imagine how you react when you get up in the morning and you don't find your phone 6 feet away from you. What do? The first thing when you get up? Look for your phone, no? Like the moment you get up, you try to look for your phone. At least that's what I do, and I'm trying hard to keep away from not doing it. But that's human nature. You are born with something that now today is considered as a right for human beings. It wasn't the case actually until 25 years back in India. The first email that I had access to was in 1998. And you would walk into a computer room, you would see a very cryptic desktop which had green lines of code, and the only thing that you had probably in 1999 was a browser which was called Netscape, and you would type something and you would hardly find any information on the web, and all you could do is probably access a Yahoo or a Hotmail account. And the big challenge at that time was the speed at which internet was being broadcast in India. You would have a dial-up connection, by the way, which would make very different kinds of sound, and probably if you're lucky, you'll get connected to the internet and forget, like imagine how you access today content on your small little screen. Like it takes a few seconds to download any content. That wasn't the case. Now, having said that, I think one of the biggest contributions of technology to this world has been, you understand what GDP is, right? Correct, but what does it mean? No. In simple terms, it is not income. No. In simple words, if you have to tell somebody what is GDP, what would it mean? Please go ahead. The value of goods and produces consumed in the country is called. It's not the income. It is not the production. It is the value of all goods and services that a country is consuming. That basically forms the GDP. Any guesses what is the world GDP? Roughly about 80-85 trillion. Now, if you just go back in history and you see the last 300 years of how the world has evolved, actually the biggest contribution or incremental growth to GDP has been in the last 50 years. And that last 50 years has actually been the world of technology. It was when back when IBM got started, 1915, they had mainframes. Then came Intel and Microsoft in 1975, and they envisioned this whole idea of bringing computing to homes in the form of personal computer. And then came companies like Cisco, which envisioned the idea of why don't we just connect the computers with each other so that they can talk to each other. And then came companies like Microsoft, which had made, you don't need to write code. All you do is open up a software, and therefore you could interact with the personal computer in a very simple way, right? And the last 50 years, the addition to world GDP is like a hockey stick curve. The maximum addition to GDP has been in the last 50 years, if you see the last 200 years. And what that means actually is, what I really want to emphasize today is that the first wave of wealth was generated in the United States, right? If you look at the history of United States economy, US economy, 1960 से लेकर अब तक उन्होंने इस दुनिया में सबसे ज्यादा वेल्थ जनरेट की, right? And the last 50 years in US have been the story of Silicon Valley, right? And when this wealth was getting generated, there was excess capital that was coming into the market. What that meant was that this world saw the advent of what we call venture capitalists, VCs, because there was excess capital in the market. And VCs found a way to start funding these companies in Silicon Valley, which today actually are big companies like Facebook, Amazon, Twitter, Google, Tesla, SpaceX, Blue Origin, you can name. And this primarily happened because the world GDP grew, and the world generated excess capital, which had to be reinvested. The second wave of growth actually came from China. if you really look at the China story, industrialization and the internet story of China is actually amazing. So the first tranche of that capital got invested in Silicon Valley. The second wave got invested in China, and that's how companies like Alibaba, WeChat, Baidu, right? All these companies came into being. The third wave, which is what we are experiencing right now, is where the world is investing capital in India. Any guesses of how much money did VCs invest in India last year, in 2022? $35 billion. So this generation is actually lucky. Imagine, you are at a point where you have access to this capital. So a lot of you will end up taking jobs. A lot of you may start up on your own. Imagine a scenario if this capital was not available. Would any bank in the wildest of your imagination lend you any money? They won't. Banks don't lend money because they are risk averse. Banks नहीं lend करते ना पैसा जब तक कि collateral ना हो, उन्होंने पूरा business के against आपका कोई backup ना हो, collateral नहीं है तो नहीं देंगे. So imagine if this didn't happen, there would be no innovation in the world. And what is most important for all of you to know is that this third wave of capital is getting invested right now in India. $35 billion. किसी NBFC की बड़ी NBFC की इतनी बड़ी बुक ही नहीं होगी इंडिया में जितना कि VCs पैसा इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं. I'm not talking about the 4 big banks. I'm saying the biggest NBFC will not be lending $35 billion in India. So you are lucky because you are born in the age of internet. Right to access to information is your birthright, and you are in a country where there is the investor sentiment is really, really high. And I think the next few years will actually belong to India because of the work that we are doing, because of the demographics that this is the demographic that we keep talking about, the young India, right? And therefore, what I'm going to talk today is how technology is playing a very pivotal role and how things are changing really fast, faster than you and I could imagine. I would highly recommend you, if at all, sir, you should keep this book in the library. This gentleman is a professor at Harvard, and he made a very, very profound statement a few years back, which is true, by the way. All companies are destined to fail. No company will survive forever. And what this means is, he said there are 2 reasons why this will happen. Because over time, as companies grow big, they become handicapped by their own legacy. And this happens, by the way, to us too, personally. Right? We often stop learning. We often become very close to new ideas. We have our own mindset, and which is very dangerous. And 2, because of technology, disruption creates new markets. You know what the average lifespan of a company, a big company today in the world is? 12 years. 12 years, the companies wind up. Most of the companies actually wind up, or they become irrelevant. And if you see here, this is the reality. Just imagine if you were like me in 2000. When I started my career in technology, in 2000, the most valuable tech company in the world was Dell. Do you see them in the chart? The most valuable company was Dell in 2000. They are nowhere to be seen. If you were asked me, where would I want to work in 2000? I would say GE. General Electric was the most sought after company where people would want to work for. In 2001, they are no longer in the chart. What you see here is 2021. Just look at, not even the top 5. Just look at the top 10 companies by market cap. Guess what? As we speak today, just Google it. Top 10 companies of the world by market cap. 8 out of 10 companies are technology companies. Right? What does this talk about? That actually, tomorrow, maybe 10 years later, people like Google or Facebook could be displaced. So Clayton's word is actually true. It is corroborated by data, what he said. You buy stuff from Amazon, right? Every single day, if you ask anybody who works at Amazon, Jeff Bezos tells its employees that Amazon will be disrupted in his lifetime, and he really hopes that they don't get disrupted in his lifetime. And there is a concept called day zero in Amazon. What they encourage their employees to do is that when you come into work, treat every single day as day zero. You should be paranoid that you could probably not have, the company would not exist. And that is the kind of innovation culture that they actually draw in that company. I'll tell you a very interesting example. When I was at Facebook, the Facebook headquarters in the US is in a place called Menlo Park, California mein. San Francisco se about 40 miles out of San Francisco. The Facebook headquarters used to be, which was one of the world's biggest tech companies. You may not even have heard of it, Sun Microsystems, right? तो Sun Microsystems का जो ऑफिस था उसमें Facebook ने अपना ऑफिस बनाया. It's a very flourishing campus. So when you enter the Facebook campus from the road, you see the Facebook logo. Facebook का logo दिखता है, right? The thumbs up and that F. But when you're going out, you see the Sun Microsystems logo. So people ask Mark Zuckerberg that, why is this? Why did you not change the logo? So he said, I want each and every employee in Facebook to remember that if we don't innovate, we could be Sun Microsystems one day, and this campus probably will be acquired by some other tech company. And that was a very, very nice thing to remind people about. It's a very simple thing to do, but every single day, it was a very nice feeling when you're getting out, you see the Sun Microsystems logo and you feel like, okay, I have a job to do. And I have a job to do tomorrow. Can you guess, okay, let me ask you the question. Which is the biggest auto company in the US? Sorry, it's Uber and Lyft. It's not General Motors. Which is the biggest music streaming company in the US? It's Apple. Sony is gone. General Motors is like a traditional car company, right? It's like, which is the biggest retail company in US? Amazon. Walmart globally is bigger than Amazon. Amazon processes more GMV in the US than Walmart does. They deliver a packet of 6 bottles in the same time as they deliver a 56-inch television. So this is how things have changed, right? You are living in an era where I mean, you could possibly believe or think about what is the pace of change, and therefore what is it that you need to do to make sure that you are equipped to survive in this world. I think there are 3 disruptions that we are seeing. Actually, 2 have already happened. The mobile revolution has already happened around the world, by the way, and you'll be surprised to know that there are more mobile phones in the world than there are toothbrushes and toilets. It is actually a fact. This actually revolution has already happened. So if you look around the world, there are, 7.2 billion people? Almost all of them have a mobile phone. Maybe 6.5 billion people have a mobile phone. but there aren't as many toilets or toothbrushes which they use every day. And that is the kind of disruption we are seeing. Actually, India has gone mobile. And this is what I was talking about. So, if you really see, unlike the US and China, jahan pe people use desktop and they transition to mobile, India actually skipped the desktop wave. And what I mean by that is, today, 900 plus million Indians have a phone. It could be a feature phone, it could be a smartphone, but they have a phone. Guess what? What is the total deployed desktop volume in India? Any guesses? 50 million. So India has actually leapfrogged or skipped that wave. We did not follow the US or the China model where we had every Indian had access to a personal computer first and then they migrated. So India has moved, and like the aspirational, actually it is very interesting that the refresh cycle of smartphone in India today is down to 12 months. So consumers in India, most consumers in India end up buying a new phone after 12 months. Right? And that is what this change is all about. Imagine today, if you don't have to write your quiz or exams, you pretty much do everything on your phone. You don't need a laptop. Right? You consume content, you watch videos, you do video calls, you do WhatsApp, I hope you do Snapchat, you use Google Pay or PhonePe or Paytm, or you consume every kind of even study content on your mobile phone. Unless you are supposed to create content, you're not using a laptop. So India has transitioned to what we call very immersive, deep mobile economy. Any guesses? So the India retail market is about $1 trillion overall. The India e-tail market, which is Amazon, Flipkart and others combined, is roughly about $60 billion and growing fast. Any guesses of what is the contribution of mobile app to that GMV? You understand what GMV is? Gross merchandise value, which is the value of product that Amazon or Flipkart or any e-commerce company is selling, right? Their top line. Any guesses on how much of that sales is happening out of mobile? Take a wild guess. 92%. Only 8% of that sales goes through desktops. And by the way, we are a very different market than the US. In US, the contribution of desktop still is 50% plus to e-commerce sales. So India has like that way transition. I wouldn't go deep, but you keep hearing about new stuff, you keep hearing about new technologies, and even for me it's very hard to keep pace with change. If you really ask me today, I work for Google and I'm supposed to know a lot about AI. Actually I don't. And the way AI adoption will happen in India in the next maybe max 2 years is going to change the way today you interact with your smartphone, the way you take pictures, the way you consume content, the way you consume information. Even for businesses, AI will play a very critical role moving forward. The point I'm making is that it has become incredibly hard to keep pace with what's happening in the world. And therefore, in my view, what I would recommend you to do is, look, this is a 2-year course which allows you to really study what marketing or finance or human resources is all about. That's one part. The other important part is how do you really spend time building your own skills, including soft skills, in these 2 years. because that's what matters. Your effective communication matters. Your ability to work in team matters. Can you take people along matters. Can you collaborate with people of different type in the industry? That matters. So therefore, these 2 years, in my view, is a very, very important journey in your life where you got to learn all these things and spend time figuring. And you don't have to do a conscious effort. These things also happen subconsciously in your day-to-day stuff. As you work in projects, as you go and out there in the market to do projects in groups, you're doing various activities in groups. These are some of the things that you will develop over time. And you should stay focused on making sure that you're spending time, a conscious time and effort in building these skill sets. And lastly, I would say is that there is so much of information around the world that you will get overwhelmed. आप सब कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Therefore, you should know, one, what interests you. Try and pursue your interest in a field or topic. Try and learn more about it than trying to learn everything. I can tell you I'm a 0 on 10 on AI today. And I'm ashamed, like I don't know AI. I can talk for 5 minutes about AI, but I think I'll have to invest hours and hours to learn about the application of AI, what will it do to the Indian economy, what will it do to Indian businesses, consumers, and so on and so forth. I will do that because this is the future, right? So therefore, you should find time to make sure that you are investing time in building your own skill sets outside of your core course. It's a very important facet. Now, I'll tell you something very interesting on how human beings have evolved, right? This is something that we did at Google, and I'll share. You know, the interesting thing, because specifically this generation, you spend like 10 hours on a mobile phone, I'm assuming, every single day. You know, okay, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is. Like a huge time of your day goes in with your smartphone, right? Therefore, what you're seeing on a small screen has impacted your attention span, right? Versus when we grew up, I saw TV. Probably my attention span was very different, and now I have also adapted because I am on the screen a lot more perhaps than you are, either on my phone or on my laptop. And therefore, this is a very interesting human experiment, which is true. So, you know, there's a proper study. This is out of scientific data that we are talking about. A human being, up until the last, like say, early 2000s, used to take 300 milliseconds to process a thought. And your reading speed was about 300 words per minute. This is an experiment that was done, by the way. And the data is coming from that. Today, all of you actually can process a thought in 30 milliseconds, and your reading speed is actually 500 words per minute. Now what this means is, do you know what the concept of a goldfish? Have you seen a goldfish ever in an aquarium? Your attention span actually is even less than a goldfish, which is considered to be a living creature that has the least attention span. Human beings have a less attention span than a goldfish, right? Now what this means is, you consume content on your desktop. Let's say I show you the same content in 2.5 seconds versus on a mobile in 1.7 seconds. That's what the mobile screen has done to you. This is how you actually consume content in these two different form factors. Now what this means is that the combination of this two on how you consume today data has actually unlocked our natural need for speed. We love everything fast. Like you need a faster car, you need a faster plane, you need somebody to really go finish out things off fast. You need, like, there is hardly any patience left in life, right or wrong. We can debate philosophically, but this generation needs everything fast. Like, I want my t-shirt from Myntra right now. I want my payment from Google Pay to be, I want like here and now. And therefore, what is done is, what you will see interesting. Now, all of you have a look at the screen for the next 10 seconds. And what I said is actually true. We will prove it. Could everybody read everything? That was 500 words per minute. Actually, right here. It probably will become 5,000 words per minute in some years. So, I would conclude my presentation and I will open the floor for questions.
Hello. So the question is, my name is Pawan Gupta and I am from 2023 to 2025 batch. My question is, as a dynamic world, what are the new challenges that we face in the internet age?
Sorry?
As a dynamic world, what are the new challenges that we face in the internet age?
I think, look, there are several challenges that you will face. The biggest challenge that I see is your ability to keep pace from a learning standpoint. Whatever you do, whether you join the banking industry tomorrow, whether you join a CPG or an FMCG industry tomorrow, whether you join an insurance company, a tech company, or you start up on your own, I think the biggest challenge will be, how do you really keep pace or tuned into what's happening around you? You get so consumed in your day-to-day stuff. And by the way, biggest of leaders, including me, like, we get consumed so much in our day-to-day world that we hardly find any time to spend a few minutes or a few hours every week to try and understand what's happening around myself, what's the pulse of the market, what insights can I draw from others, and therefore, what changes do I need to bring either in myself or to my business. That is a big, big challenge you will face in your day-to-day work. The other thing I think is, I think this whole AI stuff is real. Artificial intelligence is here. It is going to disrupt every single industry, from healthcare to education, to travel, to technology. You have seen ChatGPT or you've seen Google Bard, right? It writes a code. God bless those engineers, right? It writes a code. It will write software code. It will take away jobs, right? Tomorrow, AI will enable very, very phenomenal things in the healthcare world. If you have not, just go to YouTube and check out Google I/O 2023 and hear Sundar Pichai's opening address, where he talks about what AI will potentially do to this world. Good things, right? So therefore, I'm not saying you should learn AI. What I'm saying is very simple. I think you have to find your interest. You have to try to become a subject matter expert, whatever little you can in that thing. And you have to be very, very, very open to new ideas and not have a closed mindset. That's very important in life. That's how you'll succeed.
So one more question. How can we integrate technology with the sustainable goals of ourselves in a dynamic market?
Oh boy, I didn't even understand the question.
So how can
anybody? No, don't repeat the question like that. It's a very jargonized question. Can you simplify it? What do you want to ask? I actually didn't understand the question. Sorry.
So in the integrated world with the technology, how can we sustain with the market? That's the question.
Oh, technology itself is allowing you to sustain. Imagine if you're running today, imagine a bank or an NBFC. Can you run a bank of a scale of, let's say, 15,000 branches, let's pick SBI, without technology, right? You cannot. So technology is the bedrock of sustainability. Now, if you're asking me, the other part of, like, for example, sustainable growth, where we are also focusing on climate protection, I think we are trying to do a lot in that space, by the way, because generally for all of you, when you run a platform like Twitter or Google or Facebook or Amazon or Flipkart or Myntra or Ola in India, you need a huge data center, right? Sorry.
So my question is, how can we achieve sustainable goals of ourselves, not nature?
Oh, okay. I mean, I just told you that you need to figure out your passion and you need to pursue that. It is as simple as that. You don't need to learn AI. Nobody will become an AI expert here overnight. So you need to find what interests you, what topic interests you. You have access to information today. You don't need to have textbooks. You have access to information on your fingertip. You should use all the tools available to you and figure out what you need to do to become a half subject matter expert in that area. That's how you will be able to grow. Otherwise, if you're a generalist at this point in time, maybe it helps, but ultimately you will have to find that passion, that area of interest for yourself. Sure.
Sir, I have a question. So what key advice would you give us to be able to become part of big companies like Google and FB, etc.? Like, what is the main thing that helped you to reach from JSB to Google Pay?
So I was a part of Jaipuriya school, not JSB.
Yeah, okay, Jaipuriya school.
So, look, I think, firstly, I will say I'm pure play lucky. I probably have been lucky, and I will thank God and the blessings of my parents and this school and the education I was in BITS. I would probably say I'm fortunate. But having said that, I think, look, everybody wants the best for themselves. Everybody wants to work for the best, most iconic company in this world. Now, in some cases, it will happen early. In some cases, it may take some time. There is no guarantee how this gentleman's career will move versus how your career will move. Now, what that means is that, look, you should not over enamor or encumber yourself. बहुत ज़्यादा mental pressure अभी मत डालिए कि मुझे इस company में ही काम करना है. What you should spend, as I tell you, and I'm giving you a very practical advice. अगले 2 साल, if you're second year students, the next 1 year, you should invest a lot of time improving yourself. I can tell you a few things that matter. When you step out of this college, you will compete with the best in the industry. Let's say you join Unilever tomorrow. You will compete with people from IIMS, people from FMS Delhi, people from MDI, from all over the place. So therefore, what will matter is, did you lay the right route for your development? And that route means getting 10 out of 10 in a quiz is important. But this course, the very course of what MBA means, is about personality development. It is about teamwork. And ये आपको अभी बड़ा theoretical लगेगा कि मैं दिन भर मेरे टीचर्स ये बताते हैं, एक इंसान और आ गया स्टेज पे खड़ा होकर वो भी यही बोल रहा है, क्या बकवास है ये. But this is the reality. You got to spend time improving your overall persona. Things like communication skills, soft skills, interpersonal skills, team skills, collaboration skills. और कुछ सीखिए रोज. Just learn one thing, one little thing in that day. Believe me, in 1 year you will see a change in yourself. If you are afraid of doing something, for example, I was very afraid of getting into the stage when I got the first job in IBM and presenting. मैं stammer करता था. Somebody was kind enough to tell me that, okay, here are what we should do to. So I'm just giving you an example. In the next 1 year, you will get several chances to come and present your projects. If you're afraid, break that mental barrier. Come and present. If you're afraid of talking to many people in this batch, break that mental barrier. ये बहुत foundational है चाहे आप अपना खुद का स्टार्टअप करें, चाहे आप अब नेक्स्ट थिंग आती है कि व्हाट वंस यू गेट इनटू द रोल. आई थिंक लुक, it is a learning journey. Nobody is a born leader. Like, nobody becomes a CEO on day one. Even if you're from Harvard, a Harvard graduate is not made the CEO of a company just because you studied in Harvard, right? They have to go through their own phase. Once you are there, in 2 to 5 years, the level playing field is set. What I mean by that is, कि आप JSB से हैं, but if you do a good job of your learning on the job, you are performing well, you are creating a network in the industry, in 5 years, your tag will be behind you. Because अब आपके पास experience आ गया and you have proved your worth in that company. And therefore, most companies will be willing to take you for your experience, your knowledge and what you bring to the table versus where you passed out from. And this is a reality. With due humility, I would like to say that there are folks from Harvard Business School who are in my team. I never went to Harvard, who report into me. Right? So therefore, I would say 2 key things, cutting the story short. This 1 year, please spend a lot of time understanding what you are about and how you can improve yourself. And number 2, whatever job you land, make sure that you are doing a few things in the job. You are learning, you are trying to compete with the right spirit in that job with others, and you are building a network that is available to you, whether in that company or outside. And this will help you tomorrow go and land any company. Believe me, it's not rocket science. It is all about determination, discipline, and little bit of smartness, that extra smartness that you need to have, which will come from your experiential learning. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Vikas, PDM batch 2224. Since pandemic, we have seen declining stage of edtech companies like Byju's. In 2021, Byju's market valuation 11 billion. Now it's 5.5 billion. So, in terms of what is the scope of and how would you look this scenario in terms of edtech future and in terms of job in Indian skilled labor?
So look, Byju's is a very peculiar story. And I think one of the things that we have to learn in the startup community in India is what we call governance. Governance of how we run our companies. And if you really see the Byju's story, what is the major issue, Vesper, if anybody knows? What do you see, where the gap is? The gap is not in the potential of the India market. The gap is how they ran their company, which comes to governance. And therefore, because there were holes which were discovered, the investors will raise questions. When the investors raise questions and these kind of things discovered, the consumers take a very different stand about the perception of your brand, right? And your business starts getting hit, and therefore the valuation goes down. This valuation game today was, I would say, it's overhyped. Investors have become very smart in India. They look for very, very critical things when you are starting up. They look at what the team is, what your business idea is, and what is the execution strength that you bring to deploy that business idea onto the table. And today, most startups who have invested, whether it is Series A, B, C, or D rounds, are looking at when will these companies get profitable? What is the path to profitability, right? So, yes, the valuations are down for a few companies, but on the other hand, you look at companies in fintech space, they are doing a brilliant job like PhonePe or Paytm, right? So, these valuations will differ from time to time. Now, on your question on what is the future of EdTech, I think it's very bright. Why will education remain devoid of the technology interventions? Kyun? There is no reason. So, on the other hand, I think once these governance things get sorted out, Byju's, Unacademy or Upgrad have created a phenomenal learning platform. There are There is a huge market for their platform, and I think the future is very bright for EdTech, like it is for other sectors in India. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, as you have worked with many renowned companies, which I believe are the dream companies for most of us. So, sir, what are the qualities that these companies are looking for in the era of AI?
In the era of AI, look, these companies, the most sought after people in the US today are AI engineers. So they are looking for hardcore engineering capabilities, not business capabilities on AI. Because AI is all about very core tech work, right? On the other hand, when they hire outside of AI, they look for very simple things. They look for problem solving skills. What kind of attitude? You are given situational questions to judge your problem solving skills. They look for leadership skills. They look for your thought leadership. They look for your communication skills. And they look for a culture fit. It could be different for different companies. So they are looking for these 4 or 5 critical attributes when they hire. Sure.
So you are working in the Google Pay, and we have seen that in India people tend to spend more through the Google Pay UPI than from the cash. And now even the rickshaw and auto walas are taking UPIs or Google Pay from us. So what barriers did you face while implementing this digital payment from cash?
So let me first correct you. What's your name? Kriti. India is still a 85% cash economy. So we have a huge runway in terms of converting that cash economy into digital. Digital payments is huge. It is growing fast, but India is still 85% cash economy. Having said that, I think everybody knows UPI. So I think India is the only country in the world that actually built an indigenous payment rail called UPI, right, in 2016. What that means is, आप सब लोग banking करते हैं? So there are 3 modes of transferring money on net banking: NEFT, RTGS, and IMPS. In simple words, UPI is nothing but IMPS on mobile. Right? What they've done is, they've taken the IMPS payment rail and they put it on mobile. And mobile means, mobile आज की तारीख में सबके पास बैंक अकाउंट होता है, आपका मोबाइल फोन उस बैंक अकाउंट के साथ रजिस्टर्ड होता है. So it is nothing but a set of open APIs in the technology term. आप भी एक कल UPI ऐप बना सकते हैं, and you can launch your own UPI app. You will have to go through clearances, compliances of RBI and NPCI. You can build a UPI. There is no other payment rail in the world as open as where you can create a own UPI app and launch. So we were lucky that the government created this, and as Google we launched it. Now when we I'll just take 30 more seconds. When we launch anything, the DNA of our company is only think about the user. When you are building anything, think about the user. Do not think about anything else. And therefore our obsession with user experience has helped us build so many great products like search, maps, payment, GPay, YouTube, Chrome, you translate, right? Every single day our founder only tells our product teams or engineering teams to remember one thing. Larry Page in a conference in 2013 told us only one thing. Whenever you build a product, think about whether that product passes a toothbrush test. What he meant by that, will this product be used by everyone around the world twice a day? You brush your teeth. So it is a very profound comment. It sounds very simple, but when you start thinking this way, you end up doing a good job of building a great product.
So do you think that shifting people from cash to Google Pay or the UPI or the digital is a difficult task in India specifically or in other countries as well?
So in India it is doing really well. I think that pivot is already happening. By the way, any guesses on how much payment value will be processed on UPI, overall UPI, this month, or let's say last month? How much payment value got processed on UPI in July? $9.5 billion. Right? So, sorry, what am I saying? What am I saying? Not $9.5 billion, actually almost $1.5 trillion of money got processed on UPI. $18 trillion will get. So I think that pivot has already happened. It is a matter of time when slowly and steadily this 85 will come down to 75 and more. Thank you.